For more on the housing market and what's happening here in North Texas, I'm joined by Will Anderson, editor-in-chief of the Dallas Business Journal. So welcome, as always.
Glad to be back.
Lots of folks are anxious, right, about this next week's Federal Reserve meeting, especially home buyers. What do you anticipate will happen?
So as we just heard, yes, the consensus is that the Open Market Committee of the Fed will lower the federal funds rate. It could be, if they do lower it, could be 1/4 percentage point, could be 1/2 percentage point. We don't know what they're going to do. Maybe they don't lower it. But the consensus is that they will. But remember, just because they lower the federal funds rate doesn't mean mortgage rates are going to drop. In fact, the Fed lowered the federal funds rate by an entire percentage point last year. And even with this week's drop a little bit, we're basically where we were a year ago for mortgage rates.
I mean, how much does that 1/4 to 1/2 percentage point really make a difference?
Yeah, and in the long run, I mean, usually long-term and short-term interest rates are kind of in lockstep, or they fall and rise at the same time. That's not happening right now. They're disconnected. There's wider fears about the economy, inflation that you cited earlier. So they're not in lockstep right now. So even if the short-term rate falls, don't expect long-term rates like mortgages to fall, and certainly don't expect it to happen right away.
Will, would you say for someone who may be interested or looking that now is a good time to buy a home?
Maybe. How's that for an answer, right?
No.
So I'm not an investment professional. Don't take my investment advice. Depends on your family situation. But maybe. And if you can, I mean, with elevated interest rates, it's going to be a more expensive monthly payment. You're going to be able to afford less home generally. But if you can make it work, I think right now is a time where there are concessions to be had. So we've reported about it moving more towards a buyer's market. I think we've talked about that before.
Yep.
So if you're looking to buy, I mean, maybe you can get some concessions like a price cut, or the seller throws in a new fence or something like that. So if you're able to right now, yes, there is good reason to consider buying.
When it comes to buying a home, I know we've talked about the prices, the price of housing, today's price is not yesterday's price, but are prices going down, or are there places where they're still going up?
Yeah, I think generally across the metro, it's a few percentage drops in the median price. Overall, even very strong markets are seeing small decreases in the median, like the typical home price. But we were crunching the numbers recently on the hottest housing markets, and I was pretty surprised by what we found. Some of the housing markets, looking at like the most price appreciation just so far this year, are in places like Southern Dallas, in West Dallas, 75212, that's West Dallas. The price in the last year over year is up about 4%. So hey, if I owned a property there, I'm feeling pretty good. My investment's up 4% in 1 year. When it's falling in many places. Now, over a 5-year period, your investment in 75212 for the typical home is up about 94%.
That's crazy.
So like doubling you feel pretty good if that's your investment. And I know that, these are places where the median home price is still in the 200s, maybe the high 100s, the lower income areas. Too much price appreciation raises fears about gentrification and displacement. Those are all valid points and a good conversation to have. But I think it's really interesting to think about just like the persistent value of Dallas. I'm not talking about the suburbs, like Dallas itself, and the value of being in a place like West Dallas where the new Harold Simmons Park is being built, you're close to the Trinity, close to downtown. It's interesting to think about it that way.
I mean, not a bad time, especially with the lower price point. Could be good for those people who are trying to get into the market. Thanks, Will.
You're welcome.
Dallas Business Journal, editor-in-chief. Always glad to have you. If you want more information, check out the Dallas Business Journal's articles. They always have the tea, as the kids say, on what's going on in business across North Texas.
Thank you.